Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BPHASA and the ARC Michigan PCP webinar series. Today we have with us Kathy McRae, and she will be talking about the WIPA program. And just a few things while we're waiting for everyone to get signed in. Please remember that all attendees that your microphone is muted and videos are turned off. Questions can be asked using the Q&A function, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can during today's presentation, but we may also wait until the presentation is complete to provide a response via email or a follow-up. Following the webinar, participants will receive a PDF of today's presentation as well as a link to the recording of today's webinar. And if you are looking for recordings of past webinars, those can be found on the ARC Michigan webpage. And I will send that link as well with the follow-up email. And it is 3 o'clock, so we will get started. Welcome, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Heather. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this point and get this thing started. Oh, I need to move my tour. Just give me a sec here. Okay. So as Heather mentioned, I'm Kathy McRae. I am a project coordinator for the ARC Michigan and the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance, WIPA, project coordinator for our WIPA area. And you'll see what that is at the end of this presentation. I have a map that shows all the areas that WIPA covers in the state. So today we're going to talk about benefits to employment. And some of the topics that we're going to talk about today include Social Security Administration's disability definition. We're going to talk about Social Security Disability Insurance, also known as SSDI, or some people just call it SSD. Supplemental Security Income, which is SSI, Medicare, Medicaid, Freedom to Work Medicaid, and the Achieving a Better Life Experience accounts, or ABLE accounts. So when you are under the age of 18, Social Security has a definition that is different from the adult definition of disability. When you're under the age of 18, you will be considered disabled by Social Security if you have a medically determinable physical or mental impairment, which results in marked and severe functional limitations, and which can be expected to result in death, or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a period of not less than a year. When a person is over the age of 18, that definition changes somewhat and includes this thing called substantial gainful activity. So when you're over the age of 18, the definition for disability includes 3 parts: the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity by reason of a medically determinable physical or mental impairment, which can be expected to result in death, or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months or 1 year. So what is this substantial gainful activity thing? It's a decision that gets made by SSA. It is based on an individual's countable gross earnings, so that means before taxes. It changes most years. In 2023, substantial gainful activity for a person whose disability does not include blindness is $1,470 per month. For a person whose disability is blindness, the substantial gainful activity level is significantly higher, and that is $2,460 gross earnings per year, or per month, excuse me. You will not be found eligible for disability benefits from Social Security if, when you are applying, your earnings are higher than that. So if you're just applying for Social Security for the first time to receive disability benefits, you have to wait until your earnings have fallen below that substantial gainful activity level. So one thing that's really important to know as we're going into this is how Social Security looks at money. It looks at money that you get, that you receive in two different ways. There's money that is earned, and so that's money that's received from any kind of employment, including self-employment. And then there's unearned income. So that includes just about everything else. That can mean gifts that you receive from people that are cash. It can mean things like retirement benefits or annuities, or if you get an insurance payout, that can be money to you in the month that you receive it. That can be unearned income in the month that you receive it. So just about any other money that you receive that's not money that you earned is going to be considered unearned income. And that's important to know because that counts in a different way. So when we look at Social Security disability benefits, we're going to look at these two different sides. We're going to look at the SSDI side, and we're going to look at the SSI side. On the SSDI side, when you get disability benefits, you get a cash benefit, you get a medical benefit, that is Medicare. The eligibility for SSDI is based on someone's work history. It only counts earned income. So SSDI doesn't care about that unearned income that we talked about. And it has no resource or asset limits. So resources, assets, those are the things that you own, the money that you have in a savings account in the bank or in your checking account in the bank. SSI also comes with a cash benefit, also comes with a medical benefit. That benefit is Medicaid. The eligibility for SSI is based on economic need. SSI counts earned and unearned income, and it does have resource or asset limits. And again, those are the things you own or the money that you have in the bank. So let's start on the SSDI side. So this is an insurance program based on someone's work history. In order to receive SSDI benefits, to receive a check in your name, you have to be over the age of 18. Now, a lot of times parents will say to me, well, I get SSDI for so-and-so. Yes, but that check comes to you. It does not come in your child's name. It comes for their benefit. In order to get the check in your own name, you have to be over the age of 18. When you are found eligible for SSDI, there is a 5-month wait for cash benefits to start. The cash benefit that you receive is all or nothing. So sometimes you hear people talk about their benefit was reduced. That's not going to be SSDI. SSDI, you either get the check or you do not get the check. And then there's 24 months wait for Medicare once you're found eligible. So like I said, SSDI is based on someone's work history, either the individual's work history, or sometimes it's a family member, like a parent. And it is payable under the Federal Insurance Contribution Act. So when we get checks for work, we see deductions for FICA. That's what this is. To be insured, the worker must have sufficient work in Social Security tax-covered employment or self-employment. So in other words, they have to have worked long enough and earned enough in order to be insured through SSDI. And then the worker or family member must have a qualifying disability. So this talks about the SSDI quarters of coverage. And essentially, if you are over the age of 31, then you need to have at least 20 quarters in the last 10 years to be fully insured. If you're under the age of 31, you need fewer quarters. And if you're under the age of 24, you need 6 quarters of coverage in the last 3 years to be fully insured. So you don't have to have worked that much if you're under the age of 24, but you do have to have worked some. Now, this is what I talked about when I was saying that sometimes you receive SSDI based on a parent's work record. The Childhood Disability Benefit, formerly known as Disabled Adult Child or DAC benefit, goes to an individual who is unmarried and who is over the age of 18, but whose disability began before they turned 22. Then they can get an SSDI check based on their parent's work record if the parent is also drawing a Social Security disability benefit, the parent is drawing Social Security retirement, or if the parent has passed away. Benefits are also payable to a disabled widow or widower based on the work record of their partner. And there are work incentives that come with SSDI. Work incentives are a special kind of tool that you can use to help as you're beginning to work to figure out how much you can work and to engage in some work without losing your benefit immediately. Both SSDI and SSI have work incentives. They are somewhat different though. So with SSDI, the first work incentive that you receive is the trial work period. So the trial work period is a 9-month period of time within a 5-year rolling window. Now, those 9 months don't have to happen right next to each other. That's why there's a 5-year rolling window. So in 2023, they would be looking back to 2018. As of today, which is November, what are we at? The 13th of November? Is that right? 14th of November today, 14th of November, 2023. So they would look back to the 15th of November, 2018. And they would see, do I have during that 5-year window, 9 months that have met the trial work period standard? Okay. In 2023, the trial work period starts at $1,050. So if I'm earning under $1,050 gross earnings, then I have not earned a trial work period, and Social Security functionally doesn't care about how much I'm earning at that point. They're not really paying attention. Once I start earning at that level, then they start counting my trial work period months. And if I get 9 of them, that's when things change. With self-employment, it looks a little different. So there's the 1,050. If you have net earnings of more than 1,050 in any month, or if you're working 80 hours or more in any month on your self-employment, then that can be counted as a trial work period month. So it's a little bit different with self-employment. You can earn as much as possible without losing your SSDI benefits while you're in the trial work period. So if I'm earning $1,050 per month and I'm working, say, 20 hours a week, I might as well go ahead and see if I can work 25 or 30 hours a week, because if I earn more, it's still going to be a trial work period month, and I'm still not going to lose my SSDI benefit while I'm in that trial work period. Once you've used up the 9 trial work period months, the very next month starts the extended period of eligibility. The extended period of eligibility then lasts 3 years from that last month of your trial work period. During that 3 years, if your earnings exceed substantial gainful activity, you will not get a benefit check. If your earnings are below substantial gainful activity, you will qualify for a benefit check. So that's an important thing to know. That's another safety net, that if during that 3 years after your trial work period, because of your disability, your earnings fall below substantial gainful activity, you will continue to get a benefit check. And then there's expedited reinstatement, which is another safety net. So if your case gets closed because of work, because you're working over substantial gainful activity on a regular basis, within 5 years of your case being closed due to work activity, you can apply for expedited reinstatement. When you do that, if your earnings are below substantial gainful activity, then your benefit will be turned right back on. And then during the 6 months of that provisional benefit, Social Security will make a determination as to whether or not you still have the disability. If you do still have the disability, then your benefits will continue. If Social Security finds that you no longer have the disability, then they will turn off your benefit, but you will not be held accountable or have to pay back the benefits that you received while they were making that disability determination. If you do get your benefits turned back on, then you have 24 months during which you have to keep your earnings under substantial gainful activity, and then you'll get another set of work incentives to start again. So there are some work incentives that can reduce your countable income. Impairment-related work expenses are expenses that you pay out of pocket, which are related both to your work and to your disability. So for example, if you have a job where you have to stand up all day and you require orthotics in your shoe in order to be able to stand to work all day, and you pay for that out of your own pocket, then that is both related to your disability and to your work, and so it would be considered a work expense. If you, for example, had to pay to have your uniform cleaned, and everybody who works there has to pay to have their uniform cleaned, then that's related to your work, but not to your disability, and so it would not be considered an impairment-related work expense. When you do pay for something out of pocket and it's an impairment-related work expense, this can reduce your countable income. So after you have used up your trial work period, if it looks like your earnings may be over the substantial gainful activity level, then something that you've paid for out of pocket may be able to reduce that from being substantial gainful activity. Subsidy and special condition is another work incentive that's available. This is a underused work incentive. When somebody is receiving supports on the job, so they're getting job coaching, or the manager takes extra time to help them with their work, or they're allowed to work at a slower rate, or to do less work than somebody else in that same position, those might qualify as subsidy and special condition. This again reduces the countable income and can be used anytime after the trial work period. And then just a couple of extra ones. An unsuccessful work attempt is an effort to work that discontinues or reduces below substantial gainful activity after 6 months or less because of the disability, and again can be used after trial work period, but before the case is ceased because of work activity. And then income averaging, this one is a little bit more difficult, but it can be used if the individual has continuous work, doesn't have a significant change in work patterns, and has monthly countable earnings fluctuating from above or below the substantial gainful threshold. And it, again, can be used after the trial work period, but before the check is ceased due to work activity. So let's take a look at how some of these work incentives might apply. So here we have somebody who has monthly gross earnings of $1,700, which is above the substantial gainful activity level. They get an SSA approved impairment related work expense, so that's taken right off at $50. And so that reduces it to $1,650. Then they have a 20% subsidy and special conditions. So their employer has said, yes, this person, I have to spend 20% extra time on this individual, or they work 20% less than somebody else in this position does. Then they get a 20% subsidy and special condition, which reduces their countable income by $330, taking their total countable earnings to $1,320, which is below substantial gainful activity. So it's really worth taking a look at that subsidy and special condition and working with a community work incentives coordinator through the WIPA project in order to see if that's something that can be worked out. So I'm going to stop there and just take a look and see if we have any questions from anybody. If you put any questions, they go into the Q&A. I'm not seeing any questions at this time.
I'm not seeing any either, Kathy, so I think we can move along.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to go that fast. There we go. All right. So the other side of disability benefits is SSI. SSI is based on economic need and disability or age. So this is available to folks who have economic need who are over the age of 65, as well as folks with economic need who have a disability. The cash benefit is based on the federal benefit rate, which again changes every year. This year, that amount is $914 for an individual, $1,371 for a couple in 2023. When you get SSI in the state of Michigan, you immediately qualify for Medicaid benefits. There is a resource or asset limit of $2,000 for an individual, $3,000 for a couple. And the cash benefit reduces with income. So remember when we were talking about SSDI, I said that you always get either the full check, or if you've earned enough, then you get no check at all. Well, SSI doesn't work that way. With SSI, when you start working, your check is reduced by a certain amount. If you live with someone and they pay for the house that you live in, you're not paying for rent, or you're not paying for your food, then your check will be reduced by 1/3, or what's sometimes called the VTR, the value of a third reduction. And so then your check would only be $609 per month. And the state of Michigan does throw in $42 every quarter, every 3 months for the state supplement. Okay, so SSI is payable to disabled adults and children who have limited economic resources. When SSI is paid to children, then they're looking at the parents' income, and the parents have to be low income in order for the child to qualify for SSI. If you qualified for SSI as a child, they used that childhood disability definition to qualify you in addition to your parents' income. At age 18, they're going to do what's called a redetermination. And they're going to see if you now meet the adult definition of disability. And they're no longer going to be looking at the parents' income, just the individual's income. And then they're going to be looking at what your living situation is. So are you living with somebody? Are you not paying for food and shelter? If not, then you're going to receive that reduced amount. If you're paying rent, or you have a fair share agreement to pay for your fair share of household costs, then you can receive the full benefit rate. As I indicated before, this is also payable to people who are age 65 who don't have a disability but who meet the financial limit. And then this program, instead of being funded through the federal insurance program like SSDI was, this is funded with general tax dollars. SSI also has work incentives. The first incentive isn't really a work incentive at all. It's a general income exclusion. So for the first $20 you get of unearned income, so if you get gifts or if you receive a retirement, they don't count the first $20 of that amount that you receive. And then if you are working, they disregard the first $65 of income from your earnings. And then they divide the remainder by 2. So let's take a quick look at what that looks like. Now we're going to look at this for somebody who's working 25 hours a week and they're earning $13 an hour. So that means they have gross monthly earned income of a little over $1,400 a month. So they take off that general income exclusion of $20. So this person now has $1,389. Then they take off the $65 of earned income exclusion, and then that leaves a remainder of $1,324. They divide that by 2, and then they say, this is the total countable earned income, $662. They subtract that $662 from the federal benefit rate of $914. So this person now ends up with an adjusted SSI check of $252. And a lot of times when I speak with people, they're like, why should I even work if now I'm only getting $252? Well, of course, you're not just getting $252. You're getting $252 on top of what you're earning from work. So this person's total financial outcome is actually $1,661, which is significantly better than the $914 they were receiving when they were just getting SSI. Even if after taxes, this person is still earning at least $600 more than they were when they were just getting SSI. I'm going to just pause right there and see if I have any questions on the SSI side before I move on to dual beneficiaries. Doesn't look like I do. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Some people get both SSDI and SSI. And when that happens, the SSDI is usually, so they're getting SSDI in an amount that's less than SSI. So maybe they're only getting, as we have in this example, $400 in SSDI because they had a shorter work record. And so SSI steps in to bring them up to the federal benefit rate. But first, they take that $20 of general income exclusion off. So now they say the countable unearned income is $380. So SSI is going to step in to the tune of $534 to bring this person up to a total benefit rate of $934. When you get SSDI and SSI, you have to obey the rules of both of those programs for income counting and for resource and asset counting. So let's take a look at somebody who is a dual beneficiary who is working. So this person has SSDI of $400. They take the $20 GIE off of that, so they now have countable unearned income of $380. They have gross earnings, so they're working 20 hours a week at $13 an hour. They have gross earnings of about $1,127 a month. They take the $65 of the earned income exclusion off of that for a remainder of $1,062. That gets divided by 2 for a total of $531 of countable earned income. Now we add the countable unearned income to the countable earned income for total countable income of $911. That gets subtracted from the federal benefit rate, and this person still has a little bit of SSI coming in at $3. But when you take a look at the financial outcome, again, this person still ends up better off working, even though their SSI is now reduced to $3 because they get the SSI. They're still going to get the SSDI because their earnings are below the substantial gainful activity level. So they've got that $400 still coming in. They've got earnings from work of $1,127. So they've still got $596 more per month than they were getting before they were working. With SSI, there are some work incentives that reduce countable income. So again, SSI has those impairment-related work expenses. They have to be paid out of pocket related to both work and the individual's disability. If the individual has blindness as their Social Security disability, then they can use any work expense. It doesn't have to be related to their disability. They're called blind work expenses, and they can include transportation. They can include lunch that you eat while you're at work. They include your taxes that you pay on employment. They can include union dues. They can include care for a service animal. They can include so many things. It only has to be related to your work, and then it's a blind work expense. Another really great benefit or work incentive, is available to people under the age of 22 who are regularly attending school, and that's the student earned income exclusion. So when a person meets those under the age of 22 and regularly attending school qualifications, they can exclude up to $2,220 a month in earnings. And then they cap that at a yearly cap of $8,950. So a young person going to school and getting SSI can earn up to $8,950 a year and not lose their SSI. That is a really huge benefit. And one of the reasons we really like to encourage young people to go ahead and try to work while they're going to school, because that money is not going to impact their SSI. Another work incentive available to SSI is that expedited reinstatement. This works exactly the same way it does with SSDI. If within 5 years of your case being closed due to work activity, you can no longer earn at the substantial gainful activity level, then you can apply for expedited reinstatement. They do that 6-month check to see if you're still meeting the disability definition, and give you provisional benefits during that 6 months. Another work incentive available to SSI beneficiaries is property essential to self-support. So if you own property that you're going to be using to earn money, then that property cannot be counted as an asset to you. So when you get SSI, you can own a house, you can own a car, and you can own the furnishings of your home. And none of those will be counted as an asset or a resource. But if you own a car for your regular transportation, and you own a truck for your business, unless you applied to have that truck put under property essential to self-support, that truck might be counted as a resource because you're only allowed to own one vehicle for your transportation. But if you're using that truck for work, like you haul things, and so you have to have a truck to haul things for your job, then that should be classified under property essential to self-support, and then it will not be counted as a resource. That goes for things like tools you might own, or even land that you might own and farm. Another underutilized but difficult to utilize incentive is the plan for achieving self-support. So this is a work goal, and you can set aside money from SSDI or from work to implement the plan. When you put money aside, it is A, not counted as a resource, and B, it reduces your countable income so you can increase your SSI benefit. So you remember the individual that we looked at who was the dual beneficiary, and they had $400 in SSDI, and that was reducing their SSI to $534 a month. If they were taking that $400 and they were setting it aside in a PASS plan to attend school to become a plumber, then that $400 would no longer be counted as income to them, and their SSI would go up to the regular federal benefit rate of $914 a month. So it can be a very beneficial program, but you do have to have a well thought out plan, and it has to be work related. So you can go to school, but you can't just go to school to study literature. You have to go to school with a specific work goal in mind. So you want to become a teacher, or you want to become a plumber, or you want to learn how to operate some sort of piece of equipment, or there has to be a specific work goal in mind. You can also save up to do things like purchase a truck so that you can haul scrap, or you could save up to buy tools so that you can, make things. You can tell I don't use a lot of tools. So a PASS plan is worth talking to your community work incentives coordinator about if this is something that you feel like you might be interested in doing, going to school or saving for a work specific goal. Okay, taking another quick pause for questions here before I move on to medical benefits. Not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Medical benefits are the thing that really get in the way of people seeking work. Because once they understand that they can make more money working than they can really ever receive from SSDI or SSI, the thing that scares people off is losing their Medicare or losing their Medicaid. So let's talk about those programs and ways that you can potentially keep your medical benefit while you're working. When you get SSDI, you get Medicare coverage. It starts 24 months after your entitlement to SSDI. You get Part A, which covers hospitalization, Part B, which covers medical providers like doctors, nurses, anesthetists. And then Medicare Part D is the prescription drug coverage. There are no resource limits for Medicare. So Medicare doesn't care how much money you have in savings. If you own 2 homes, if you have, 5 cars, Medicare doesn't care about that. On the SSI side, you get Medicaid. Because we are a 1634 state, as soon as you qualify for SSI, you qualify for Medicaid. It starts the same month as your eligibility for SSI. You get hospitalization, you get medical providers, you get prescriptions, all covered under Medicaid. Medicaid does have a resource limit, and that limit is $2,000 for an individual and $3,000 for a couple, just like the SSI resource limits. If you get both Medicare and Medicaid, you need to apply for Medicaid separately from SSDI, and then DHS determines eligibility for Medicaid. So when you start working and you receive Medicare, there are some, oh, I'm sorry, I went backwards. And I went backwards again. Let me scoot myself back, folks. Sorry. There we go. Okay. There are some things that you need to know. Medicare is a federal program, and it is the same across the country. So if you get Medicare in Michigan, it is the same Medicare that you will receive in Florida. If you get Medicare in Michigan, it is the same Medicare you will get in Illinois. It's exactly the same across the country. You get it after you've had a 24-month waiting period, which does get waived in some cases, but they are very few. And as long as you are receiving an SSDI check, you are qualified for Medicare. So during that trial work period, during that EPE, if you're getting a check, you're qualified for Medicare. And then if you lose your SSDI check because of work or your check is ceased, you enter the extended period of Medicare coverage. So this is at least 93 months from the end of your trial work period. So that's like 7 years, over 7 years. You get Medicare Part B premium that you have to pay it, but you can still qualify for it. And Medicare Part D also has to be paid by the beneficiary, but you can still get it. Medicare Part A is free for at least those 7 years. So you have an opportunity to continue your Medicare even if you're working. Medicaid is a federal program also, but it's administered by the states, and so it varies from state to state. If you move to Florida from Michigan, you're going to get a very different kind of Medicaid, and you have to reapply to get Medicaid in that state. As long as in the state, if you're getting Medicaid in Michigan and you're still in Michigan, as long as you're receiving an SSI check here, then you're going to qualify for Medicaid because we're a 1634 state. We're also what's called a 1619B state. So Medicaid will continue as long as you've received a check for at least 1 month, you still meet the disability requirement, you still meet all the other non-disability requirements, which means that you have resources below $2,000 for an individual, and you have gross earnings below the state threshold. This year, that state threshold is $42,027 a year, or about $3,502 a month. So that was actually in 2022. That's gone up for this year, and I'm sorry I don't have the right number in there. But it's a significant amount of money. So you will continue to get Medicaid until you hit that state threshold amount. So you don't need to have concerns immediately about working unless the job that you get is earning over that $42,000 a year amount. And then if it does look like you're going to be getting a job where you're going to be earning over $42,000 a year, you can look at a program called Freedom to Work Medicaid. Freedom to Work Medicaid eligibility starts if resources go above $2,000. So if it looks like you're going to start having savings over $2,000, then you can go to Freedom to Work Medicaid. Or if your countable earned income plus your unearned income are and your, I'm sorry, let me say that again. Also, we're going to look at, so we can look at resources to get us into Freedom to Work Medicaid, but we can also look at income to get us into Freedom to Work Medicaid. So if your countable earned income plus unearned income are below 250% of the federal poverty level, then you can be eligible for the Freedom to Work Medicaid program. And that's using the SSI method. So let's take a look at what those numbers actually look like. Let's say you have unearned income of $700. That equates to $680 in countable unearned income. You have countable earned income of $2,604. That's going to equate to countable earned income of $1,270. When we add that together, we have total countable income of $1,950. Well, 250% of the federal poverty level is $3,037 a month. So if you're earning below that amount and you're working, then you're eligible to move to Freedom to Work Medicaid. You can be eligible to work to move to Freedom to Work Medicaid if you're only earning, $1 a month. Okay. So if you want to get on Freedom to Work Medicaid, because it allows you to have higher levels of savings and higher levels of earnings, there's no bottom limit. You can move to Freedom to Work Medicaid as long as you're working and you have a disability. Once you're on Freedom to Work Medicaid, you can save up to $75,000. You can have an unlimited amount in a retirement savings account, like a 401k or an IRA. You have to pay premiums if your earnings are over 138% of the federal poverty level. So earnings over $1,677. So if you're earning more than that, then you're going to pay a premium. That premium is 2.5% of your modified adjusted gross income. So let's say you were earning $3,000 a month. Your premium for Freedom to Work Medicaid would be $75 a month. $75 a month is incredibly inexpensive insurance. You're not going to find anything like that on the marketplace that's going to be at the same level of benefit that Medicaid is. So that's a great program. Savings accrued while on the Freedom to Work program will be held harmless for returning to another Medicaid program. So while you're on Freedom to Work Medicaid, let's say you were working and you managed to save $75,000, but then you had to stop working and probably work too hard. And you have to return to a regular Medicaid program. You no longer qualify for the Freedom to Work Medicaid program because you can't work anymore. Then the savings that you put together, that $75,000 that you earned while you were under the Freedom to Work program, will not be counted as an asset. It'll be held harmless for returning to a regular Medicaid program. It's important to remember whenever you're dealing with Social Security that any decision that they make is appealable. So if you get a decision letter from Social Security that is not favorable to you, file an appeal. You can always withdraw the appeal if you need to, but if you filing the appeal gives you a chance to figure out if there's something that you need to let them know. It holds your benefits where they are while the appeal is being decided. So any decision that they make is appealable. And those letters that you get from them will always give you a time frame for the appeal. Don't throw letters from Social Security away. Keep a file of your letters so that you have something that you can refer back to. And also, If you're working with a community work incentives coordinator in the WIPA program, then they'll be able to take a look at those letters for you and help you figure those out. I also want to talk just briefly about ABLE accounts. So these Achieving a Better Life Experience accounts were a federal law that was created several years ago. They are available to anyone whose disability started before they were 26. That in a couple of years, that's actually going to go up to 46. So that's going to be pretty cool. You can have up to $500,000 in an ABLE account. If you have up to $100,000, it will not be counted as a resource for Medicaid. So we've talked about this several times now. Medicaid and SSI have a $2,000 asset limit. If you put that money into an ABLE account instead of into your checking account, then it will not be counted as an asset for Medicaid or a resource for Medicaid, and you'll be able to continue getting your Medicaid and your SSI. There is a $17,000 a year contribution limit, so you can't put in more than $17,000 a year unless you're working. If you're a working beneficiary, then you can contribute an additional $14,580 on top of that $17,000, as long as you don't have a 401k or some sort of retirement savings plan through your employer. There are some spending regulations, but they are very light. You just have to spend the money on what are considered to be qualified disability expenses. And the definition of that is pretty broad. It includes things like vacations and clothing and household furnishings. It can include rent, and it can include groceries. When you do get the Achieving a Better Life Experience account, if you pass away, then the first thing that happens with any money left in your account is it's used to pay Medicaid back. So there is that Medicaid payback. Here is a list of resources, and I know Heather's going to be sending this out to you, so you can take a look at these at your leisure, that have various information for you. And then, as promised, this is the WIPA projects that cover the state of Michigan. The ARC Michigan WIPA, which is what I cover, is all the yellow area of the state on this map. If you're working and you're getting a disability, please feel free to reach out to the WIPA covering your area. These people go through a very intensive training program, ongoing certification requirements, and they are able to help you to understand your unique and individual benefit situation. Whether you're getting SSI or SSDI, Medicaid or Medicare, if you're getting Section 8 housing, if you're getting SNAP food benefits, all of these play together differently and play differently with work. And so it's very important for you to be able to sit down with one of our counselors and talk about exactly how your individual benefits are going to be impacted by your return to work, so that you can make the best decisions to secure the best financial future for yourself. And that's it, folks. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. But it doesn't look like we have anything in the Q&A.
Kathy, I don't see anything in the Q&A, but I do just want to remind everyone that we will send out this recording and we will send out the PDF of this, because there was a lot of information in there, so that people can go back and revisit that and figure out which things are, specific to their situation. And we will also post this on our website, and I will send out the link to that. So if you would like to share this information with anyone else, you will be able to do that. And we do have a couple questions, I think, popping up in the Q&A.
Okay. Uh, Thanks, Susan. Yeah, you let me know when you figure out what those questions are, and I'm happy to answer them for you. So folks, and you have my contact information on that presentation. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions that you think of as you take a look at this and review the information you were provided.
Yes, just a couple things popping up, but no real questions in the Q&A. So we can go ahead and end the webinar for today. And again, this is a lot of information, so I'm sure everyone will be looking for those resources to go back and find the details that they need. So thank you again, Kathy, for your time today. And thank you everyone for attending. You guys have a great week.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.